It is 7 o'clock. Judy, can we have the Open Public Meetings Act statement, please?
Yes, sir. Adequate notice of this meeting in the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News in Somerville and to the Princeton News in Whippany, also to all subscribers, and posted here at the Municipal Building as of January 7th, 2019.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First is a series of minutes. We've got 5 minutes to approve. Has everyone had the chance to go through them? And if there are any comments, have they been provided over to Judy?
Yeah, there were some comments about the February 11th meeting. I referenced Mayor Parker by mistake. I'm sorry. So it was corrected. Thank you, Colin. So it's been corrected.
Okay. Hearing no other comments, can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
I have to abstain from the last Township Committee meeting.
Mr.
So I wasn't
McKee's
here.
abstaining.
That was the.
To be honest, I have to check. I don't know if I was here.
You were out for the budget session,
Right.
but you were here for the
Yeah,
Township
you
Committee.
can't vote on the budget and he can't vote on the last meeting.
Right.
But I got it.
Permits and raffles. There are no permits and raffles.
There are none.
There are none, which is very rare. Public comments. There's no public here, but for the record, twice each night, we open that microphone right there for comments from the public about anything going on in town that's not otherwise on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on with the meeting. There will be certainly a second opportunity to provide public comments later on. Judy, actually, no, not Judy, not just yet. Reports from subcommittee chairs. Doug, can we start with you over there?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I have no reports, but I can report that we've got some meetings set up for tomorrow on some of our ongoing issues. So the next meeting will give a report.
Great.
Mayor, good evening all. Just a couple updates on Rec and Tech. Our basketball program is winding down. I just want to give some final numbers. Overall participant registrations were up 5% over last year with 157 K-8 students participating. That's a pretty amazing number. That's 31% of the total Bedminster school population was in our basketball program. So hats off to Robin Ray and the rest of the rec team for doing that. 3 of the 8 teams, by the way, are in the playoffs with our 8th grade boys travel team, the first seed in their division. Also want to remind folks, bus trip to Philadelphia Flower Show is on March 6th. It departs from Miller Lane at 9 a.m., returns about 6 p.m., $60 per person. Still a few seats available. If you're interested, please contact Robin Ray. Also, summer camp registrations begin on April 1st, as do employment opportunities for camp counselors and counselors in training. And this Saturday, February 23rd, from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, our DPW, our Rec Department, and the Environmental Commission are all getting together to offer a bat program to 29 Bedminster Cub Scouts, ranging in ages from 6 to 11 years of age. They'll have a presenter from the Conserve Wildlife Foundation in New Jersey. They'll follow that by a bat box building workshop. And John has been instrumental in creating the raw materials for the bat houses, which then will be constructed that day and then installed at a later date in our Bedminster parks. And many thanks to you, John, for helping with that effort. Just a quick item, our tech committee. We had the first meeting of our tech committee this year. Judy Sullivan had arranged that and was instrumental in that. We established our priorities for our technology projects and investments this year. We have an emphasis on continuing to upgrade our infrastructure to enterprise-grade technology. That's important because the ongoing threat of cyber attacks, and all municipalities are facing this right now. So we're trying to take steps to get ahead of that. And by the way, there have been a lot of website updates going on. There's new pages and new information. Robin Ray has been busy on that, so I encourage everybody to check it out. There's a lot of good stuff on there. And that's about it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Colin. Ms. Santucci?
Thank you, Colin. I think you also, Colin and I are continuing to work on just getting some real numbers for the pony farm. So we're working on that. I know Colin did some hard work on that this week, so thank you.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. We're going to hopefully, either later on this week, maybe after the snow or whatever we're going to get tomorrow. It's just been really bad weather, but we want to go over there again just to see what's going on and try to get some hard numbers on that. We have a historic preservation meeting on Thursday at 6 o'clock here, but I don't have any other updates for you, Mayor.
Okay, great, thank you. Ms. Mareski?
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to have a meeting for the JVH organization, but they are canceling tomorrow's meeting due to the weather and postponing it till the 27th. However, that allows me to go to the Environmental Commission meeting instead of Colin, and I'm excited to hear about how they're doing with the bat boxes. That's going to be an exciting program, and I just want to thank Colin and John for spearheading that. That's going to be a great thing.
Great. So a couple things I want to report on. There's a meeting tomorrow of the Clarence Dillon Public Library. This will be the first, well, actually be the second meeting for 2019, getting some updates on the library activities. Land Use Board, there was a meeting last week at the Land Use Board. Bless you. There were two C variances granted for residential properties. One of them was the property, I think some of you may be aware, it's the property on Longview Road that had been damaged by fire about 15 plus years ago. And there's a couple that bought the property and they're looking to rebuild on that site. They're actually building smaller than what was there before, so very interesting. But since there was a non-conforming structure that burnt down, what they're replacing, even though it's smaller, still had some non-conforming activities, and those were approved by the Land Use Board. Additionally approved by the Land Use Board on Thursday was the Trump Golf Course came in for approval for lighting. So they're putting some additional lighting out on the property, and because of the way that, very minor stuff, but because of the way the approval is set up, any change to the golf course requires coming before the Land Use Board. So that was a very quick review of that lighting feature. Additionally, the Land Use Board is continuing to meet on master plan review, looking at a couple issues. We actually, of the master plan subcommittee, have a meeting that is scheduled for next week to talk about events going on in town and what we need to have the master plan evolve for the current economy that we are all looking into. Wouldn't be a meeting without making reference to the farmers market. There's been a lot of email traffic back and forth among the farmers market committee about doing more events at the farmers market and locking them in with a schedule. So Colin, just as we discussed at the Board of Health, looking to activate the Board of Health to do more activities, one of the issues that was raised that we'd seen that another farmers market had done was to do flu shots. So a little bit of coordination with the county, but they indicated that they would be on board to do flu shots probably end of summer or fall, whenever the flu shot season starts, hopefully before flu season. And so that would be a great activity to have the Board of Health sponsor, but run it at the farmers market. So we're still going to look at some other opportunities just like that. If anyone has other ideas through your different subcommittees or committees, let us know, and if there's an opportunity to do it, let's try to do it that way. That is it for my committee reports. So Judy, we'll hand over to you for the administrative report.
A couple quick things. We have budget work session next Monday, the 25th, 7 o'clock, conference room A. Tax Assessor Kerwin will be presenting the 2019 property assessments. They were just completed actually this week. Plus we will be updating the capital budget, which we discussed at the last meeting, and reviewing some employee costs going forward. You should have in your packet, probably under reports, is an email from Paul Ferrero, engineer, referencing repairs for the bridge on the hike and bike trail. He sent reports to the DOT with plans. Our repair plan includes a crane, but the crane would have been stationed on Route 206 and done the repairs from that side of the bridge. It would not have impacted the exit ramp 22. However, the DOT was requesting that exit ramp 22 be closed during the repairs, and that would require us to provide traffic control, police, proper signage out on 287, and then provide a detour plan. Mr. Farrell does not believe this is needed. We've done this type of repair once before, and he was going to be reaching out to Meredith Hammond, our representative at DOT that we
Right.
coordinate with. So we'll see how that pans out. But we got that communication today.
Good, good.
Also, John Manson and I met, just coincidentally, the new PSE&G area representative, the regional public affairs manager, popped into the office to introduce himself to me last week. And he introduced himself, do you have any ongoing issues in town? I said, oh, interesting, you should come in. So we invited him in. John happened to be in the office when he came. We sat down and we discussed some of the concerns that were brought to your attention from the residents on Tuttle and Riverwood regarding the installation of the PSE and the natural gas line on those roads. They were going to be paying an assessment to have it extended. They had enough residents that wanted the project. I'm going to turn it over to John. He can tell you more of the details, but I think we've resolved it. So, John.
So, I guess when the permit, and I showed a few of you, the permit application, when it came in to me, showed the line kind of like running up to the, I'll say to the one side of the center line of the roadway, which would indicate that they're going to go up the center of the road, not on the edge of the road. All indications were that that information I forwarded off to Paul Ferraro. Paul Ferraro had some comments, which I then turned back to PSE&G to incorporate into their project. They then in turn took that as this is what we wanted, and they came up with another cost estimate on top of what the cost of the project was to install the line. So the assessment to the residents was probably another $40,000. And I think that that's what really set them off. And I know that there was a letter that was circulated requesting to come to the Township Committee meeting and discuss this. I then in turn talked to one of the residents who authored that letter, got her side of the story, called the representative from PSE&G who put the permit together. We had a conversation back and forth. He indicated that you know, their preference is to put gas lines not in the middle of the road, but on the edge of the road or in the lawn areas of residences, and like they've done in the past. So back and forth we went, and we came up with a solution of, you know, about a foot off of the roadway is where this line is going to go, and there should be no additional cost to the residents.
And they have an easement, right, to do that, in
Yeah,
terms
I
of
mean,
even into the grass?
The easement extends obviously into people's properties, so whatever that easement is, and I forget what it is up through there. So from the center line, you know, we're probably into that, so we're good to go at this point in time. So what they were trying to do is they were trying to push, you know, the repair costs back on the residents, which I can understand. So their initial cost that was given to them included what they thought the pavement restoration was going to be anyway. So we just added more to it just to do it.
Thank you.
So has that been communicated to all the affected property owners?
When I spoke to the resident who authored that memo letter, I guess they've been in communication. I have not heard from anybody. I know Committeeman Stevenson had talked to somebody also, so I'm assuming that it's been communicated to all of them at this point in time.
I had communicated with one of the folks on the list, and they said that they had already spoken with John and PSE&G, so they were aware of it.
Okay.
And then lastly, it's not on my written report, but as you probably know, we had a couple of power outages today. We had what was like around a little after 10, and then it came back on for a little bit, and then it went out again. It was rather difficult. We had court ongoing in this room today, so court had to be moved out temporarily over to the other smaller court. Court officers, people had already been gone through security with all the metal detector scanning. They had to now be moved out, moved over to the other courtroom. We didn't have electricity, although the other courtroom does have a generator. So they had to be wanded, you know, for weapons over on the other side. I know the police were out directing traffic at all the different traffic lights. I know the chief went up to the schools to do a security check up there for them because they were without power as well. John Mance ran a temporary generator here, so we can still have computer services here within the building, and a little bit of lighting. It was quite an interesting day. I did reach out to our representative, Tom Haynes, who was here a couple meetings ago, and asked him, could he explain to us what happened? He apologized for not reaching out right away. They were a little busy with it. When I talked to them, it was still not completely repaired, but apparently he said there was a cross-member piece on a pole next to Welch's Motors in Far Hills on Route 202 that cracked and broke. When it broke and fell down, something touched something it shouldn't touch, and anyway, the pole caught on fire and interrupted the transmission line and impacted parts of Bernardsville, Far Hills, Bedminster, Reddington, and Tewksbury from that fire. They were able to get most everybody back up and running within a few hours. How many hours? Maybe 3?
No, I think it was about an hour or so.
Okay. Except for Far Hills, when he called me late this afternoon, Far Hills was still out of power, but I believe they're back up.
Yeah, they isolated a circuit, and then they were trying to get power to AT&T and everybody else. So when I spoke to the representative on the road, one of the tech guys, he indicated that we should have power in 5 to 10 minutes, and sure enough, we did.
So just to reiterate, this was not part of any ongoing issue that residents have experienced with JCP&L. This was a pole cracking over in Far Hills. So,
I don't know.
A new version of a blackout or power outage.
A branch came down, hit a cross member, it broke, and one thing led to another, but I just want to say it impacted pretty much everybody here, and it was pretty widespread, but we handled it.
And Chief, satisfied with the way the court was working? With this transition over to the old courthouse or the old courtroom? And did we end up back here, or did you just finish over there?
No, they stayed.
They stayed there?
No, it worked out all right, I guess, because of the amount of people on the docket. And I'm sure if it was one of those blowout court sessions, then we would have had people here and people there and filtering them back and forth. But it worked.
Thank you, and thank you guys for transitioning so well to a new situation, dealing with the courts. It's great. Judy, I do want to put on the same while we're on administrator's report. There was the DOT meeting here. That was on February 6th, which was the DOT presentation of options for the Rattlesnake Bridge Road detour. Colin and I attended on behalf of the Township Committee. Meredith Hammond and a whole crew from DOT and their engineers were here to talk about the detour. The gist of it is that Rattlesnake Bridge Road will be closed in sometime in the spring or summer of 2020. And the discussion was about the presentation from DOT about their preferred detours. The comments that we gave from our side were about adjusting to the detour if there's a way that the road can be maintained close to 1 lane at a time, leave it open. That may not be a viable option. The other issue was the detour when you are coming from 78 west of here and you're traveling east and you want to go north on Rattlesnake Bridge Road. I'm just going to try to repeat their preferred option. Their preferred option would be that you pass Rattlesnake Bridge Road, get off on 287 north, take 287 north, get off at exit 22B, take the River Road jug handle, right? So, got that so far? Come around, get onto 287, go down 78 until you... No, going the other way. You're heading back west at that point.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So you're heading west, and then you would take the Rattlesnake Bridge Road exit, because you're going to be on the north side of Rattlesnake Bridge Road, and then you'll go up there. We suggest that it would probably be a much simpler detour if you directed people to get off at, was it exit 24?
24.
Which is in Oldwick, and you go up to Oldwick, and then come down Lamington Road, which is where you would end up anyway, without forcing all these people coming down that jug handle and, DOT said they would think about our suggestion.
Well, their concern was primarily that that was located in Hunterdon County and outside of Bedminster, and they wanted to have the entire detour within Bedminster. We told them
Not necessary,
Yeah.
whatever's easiest and safest for the motorists.
Yes. So we...
And we had representatives from Feathers Elbow, Trump National,
fire
Fire
departments.
State Squad, we had everybody here.
Right, and certainly the consensus from the folks from the Bedminster side were like, you're putting, not that there's going to be a whole lot of people who exit 78 east to go onto Rattlesnake Bridge Road, but there are some, and the method that they've selected is awful complicated and confusing. We think that there's better options. There'll be follow-up meetings with DOT. That's it for the administrator's report. Discussion on introduced ordinances. We have none. Introduction of ordinances. We have none. Public hearing of ordinances. We have none. Consent agenda. There is no consent agenda tonight, but we do have two resolutions. First resolution is 2019-031. It authorizes the return of funds collected for redemption of tax sale certificate. Judy, a little background on that?
So this particular, this was a property that went to tax sale. The mortgage company learned of the tax sale. There was actually, they're redeeming now to the lien holder. The lien holder agreed to the payoff amount. So this doesn't cost Bedminster anything, and this doesn't get Bedminster anything. We're just a pass-through for this transaction. But ultimately, we were paid at the tax sale for the taxes, and this is just, the lien holder and the mortgage company for the property. So.
Okay. Any questions for Judy? None? Can we have a motion to move 2019-031?
I will make the motion.
Second?
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mayor Jacob?
Aye.
Thanks.
The next resolution, which was added today, is 2019-032, authorizing the annual sewer rate for 2019. So Judy, this is new. It's not on the agenda earlier.
Well, normally, I really wanted to have a meeting to review the sewer rate because we have a number of changes that are coming about within the sewer utility, but we're not there yet. We hope to get there soon. We could make an adjustment later and do a rebate later, or we could wait and hold off till next year. We have a number of options we can do, but we're not ready. And the sewer tax bills, the schedule that they're on, they're normally due February 1st, so we're past it, or I'm sorry, March 1st. This resolution extends the due date till April 1st, and with that, we need to get it into to the tax collector before the end of February. So this is our last meeting in February to set the sewer rate. So we're just going to leave it the same for 2019 as we've had in the past. Hopefully, we will be able to meet with everyone involved and come up with some options if we're going to change the rate, give a rebate, make some other changes. We have a lot of good things coming for the sewer utility.
Right.
But just timing isn't the best right now.
Does anyone have questions for Judy on 2019-032?
So 75 in 2018?
The rate itself, that's a, the $75 is per equivalent connection. That is the fixed fee rate for each property. It is the same now for everyone, and then the actual rate, which is based on the flow, is .047 per cubic foot of metered water.
And that's what it was last year.
That's what it's been for almost forever.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there's no other questions, can we have a motion to move forward with 2019-032?
So moved.
Again, roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs? I almost said.
Aye.
Thank you.
Discussion items, we have, does anyone have anything that is for
We
discussion?
have bill list.
Oh, you're right. Did I skip over that? Bill list! We have a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Again, roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci? Aye. Ms. Marewski? Aye. Mayor Jacob?
Aye.
Thank you.
Now to discussion items. I don't think, is there anything on for discussion? Nope. New business. Any new business? No.
Not yet.
Oh, okay, old business. We do have a couple things on old business.
There are
One-
some reports for you from the zoning official. There were a number of, 2 letters sent out recently with these. And again, these are basically, we get calls from residents who, ask us a question, is this a registered rental property? Have the proper inspections been completed? Sometimes they're looking at, one of the rental Airbnb websites, and they'll call up, and the concerned resident is looking to make sure everything is proper. Or maybe it's in their neighborhood, or maybe it's their, house or condo that's next door to them. So these are usually come from phone calls from concerned residents.
And so it seems, once again, that these are coming from different, well, the reports and the addresses, so
They're
this-
different neighborhoods.
Yeah, different neighborhoods, so it's not always condominiums, it's single-family homes as well. And what's been the reaction to those folks who are receiving these letters?
Pretty much, the response is they call up and find out what do they need to do to make it appropriate. There's I forget the name of the website, there's a clearinghouse for a lot of the Airbnb, Airbnb, Trulia, there's a couple different ones. There's one website that puts them all together. They actually contacted us in response to one of these letters that impacted one of the properties they were handling, and said, what do we need to do it properly? So we told them that the rentals had to be for periods of more than 4 months. And then they were not considered short-term rentals anymore. So then they said, okay, they were going to change their guidelines to comply, so that they weren't, breaking any rules for us, and that they had to register, and they just want to be compliant.
Interesting. Okay, so,
Where are you reading from, Judy?
Pardon?
Where are you reading from?
It should be under reports, also, maybe under new,
This
old
is-
business, it's under old business, I'm sorry, old business.
see, I have it under reports. Lisa, I have your letters under reports.
On check reports.
I think it should be under old business, but I could be wrong. There's a couple of letters there from Jeff.
Yeah.
Where do you find it? Under reports? Under reports, okay.
Got it. Thank you.
So we will just continue to keep short-term rentals on the agenda, and to the extent that Judy Jeff has any updates as these matters proceed, whether on compliance or other options, that we know what's going on and see how many are coming in. And
Yeah, with the letters going out, we've had good compliance. I mean, people call up, oh, I didn't know, or, thank you for letting me in, it's fine.
so when that happens, are we seeing these units remaining as short-term rentals but trying to comply, or?
That they'll make adjustments, they'll register as a landlord, they'll that it's not going to be, they're not going to do, the weekend or the 2 weeks or the 1 month. They'll try to, work within what the rules are.
Now, are you sending this stuff to the Hills? To their management companies or to
So, yes, we've been in
HTMA?
contact through Pam Lawler to a number of the management companies and letting them know what the rules and regulations are. And they've been, very receptive.
Okay.
And so, compliance, does that mean the regular fire inspection for each one? And when they say compliance,
So they,
I don't want to appear skeptical, but if you're renting for weekends or for weeks, going to a 4-month-only rental, that's a big deal, right? If you're going through Airbnb or VRBO or HomeAway or one of those other short-term rental sites, that's a specific market that you're targeting, and to go to 4-month or longer rentals is very different.
so the zoning officer, he met with me today to say he's tracking these properties as they're identified, and, he's looking at the websites, he's been in touch with the management associations, he's been in touch with the owner, let them know that, you'll get a summons if you're not going to affect the rules, so.
Right, and I think as Ms. Morosky said, I think we do need to talk to the associations, both the management as well as their executive committees and their boards to talk about this issue and how they're managing it internally versus what we're doing, and make sure that, to the extent there needs to be coordination, that we're both apprised of what the other is doing. So I know Doug, we talked to some folks about setting up those meetings with the associations, village associations, and master associations. To the extent we need to, just let's keep that on the agenda and move forward.
All right, I'll update you on that as well.
All right. Engine braking, the sign is still up on 206. Folks seem to be satisfied that it is doing its job. Chief or John or if anyone else has heard anything further about the sign and the engine braking noise? Anything? No? No?
Just positive feedback.
Just positive feedback.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay, next is permission to use the right-of-way at 56 Tuttle Ave. My understanding that we were going to get some residents who are going to come out here to ask some questions. Joe, do you have any update on those discussions?
Well, I have comments back from 2 of the property owners. We still haven't heard back from the Laytons yet as to any comments to the draft agreement that was circulated. One of the residents had a couple different emails. One seemed like she no longer wanted to move forward with the agreement, but then later seemed like she did have comments to it. So I'm going to reach out to her directly and speak with her on the phone. I was out all week ill, so I'm just catching up last week, so I'm catching up on that now. But I will be reaching out to her this week, talk to her, figure out where her position is, whether this is a go or not a go, and report back. But if it is a go, then I'll reach out to the Laytons as well to find out where they are in their review and any comments, so we can try to wrap up the agreement and bring it to the committee.
Okay.
Yeah, she had come in, there was a question, I guess, about the insurance portion of the agreement,
Mhm.
and I think she put her question, I asked her to put her questions in writing and send them on.
Yes, and she's had some additional, she said she reviewed it with her attorney and had some additional revisions and proposed revisions to it. So before I start going down that road, I want to make sure that the other property owner's still on board, that we're all going to work together on this, and also reach out to the Laytons, make sure that they have what comments they have so we can incorporate everything together.
What status is the work on that house at 56 Tuttle?
No permits have been issued until this is finalized.
The driveway. On the driveway, but on the work on the house itself?
The house, so as far as the driveway permit and, I don't know what other permits are ongoing.
I mean, they've got the addition in, and it's moving along.
Yeah, there's a
So I don't know.
There's a fair amount of
And
activity out
there
there.
is discussion from, I know one of the residents, that they want to change their current driveway to out onto Tuttle Avenue. So this may not affect later on the sale of the house.
Right.
And I also know that the property owner we're talking about is also thinking about maybe doing something different on her property so that that driveway does come out onto Tuttle Avenue also. So this may be a discussion.
Okay.
The driveway permit, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. The
Right,
driveway
yeah, no,
permit.
because there's a whole lot of activity at that house, so I'm just curious to see how they're proceeding and how much that is predicated upon getting that access to
Yeah, it seemed like it was everything, and now it seemed, as John mentioned, it might be moot, but we don't know because I've gotten conflicting emails from the various property owners, so I wanted to get them on the phone and actually talk it out and figure out where we're going with it.
Okay. Pluckman Park. Judy, there's some
So we were
movement on
supposed to
Pluckman
have a
Park.
meeting with representatives from Pluckman Park last Tuesday, then we had a snowstorm, so they canceled. Potentially, there's a possibility for this Thursday, that has not been finalized, so that's still made. So if not this Thursday, then hopefully next week, but we're supposed to meet with them to go over all the pending issues, and they're gonna let us know where they are with all the things we told them that we've done.
Okay, so at this point, the town's position is that there's still repairs that need to be done.
Yeah. I know there's a number of issues from construction, code enforcement, and zoning, some of them serious, that could generate summonses for not being in compliance, if not completed within a reasonable amount of time. So, we're not there yet.
So we're not there yet, but at the same time, to the extent that, are we holding off on issuing those summons until there's a meeting?
Well, we're going to have the meeting.
Because it's sort of problematic that the issues that have been identified are safety issues.
Right. So I think
And
if
this
we take it
is,
to meeting,
let's
like-
remember what Pluckman Park is. These are folks who, it's rent controlled, age restricted, and these folks don't have a lot of opportunities. And the fact that if there's safety issues out there, we need to be in front of
When we
it.
set the date, I'll let you know. I don't know if anyone wanted to also attend from the Township Committee, but Thursday is a maybe, and probably next week, but I don't know, we're not going to let it go that long.
Okay.
These are already, the clock is ticking for when the repairs have to be made.
All right. Okay. That's it for old business. So, as we said at the beginning of the meeting, 2 opportunities for public comments. This is the second opportunity for public comment. We have some members out here. If you're ready to make a public comment, ma'am, please come on up. Come to the microphone.
Do I have
Yes, you do.
not hear me or record from here?
Well, we cannot
Record?
record you from there, but we can record you from here.
From...
And if we could have your name and address,
My
please?
name is Susan MacDonald, and I live in Tuckerton Park. I moved in May 1st, and the landlord finally, after about 6 meetings, came to see me the end of June, I think, to collect my first rent. For me to sign a lease effective May 1st. You will not see him at a meeting. In fact, he was promoted, and there's a new girl taking care of the place, Samantha.
Samantha, that's who we
Yes.
were having the meeting with.
Yeah, she's pretty much unavailable a lot too, so that's all I want to say is that what, do you have deadlines? Have you issued summonses?
So we issued notices of violation that have a set time frame that they have to be addressed before a summons would be issued. We're in that time frame now. Off the top of my head, I don't know, there's usually like a 30-day window that those have to be addressed. So we're not there yet, but
Judy, is that a public record? Can I get that?
the notices of violation,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And you have meetings scheduled with them?
So tentatively for Thursday, hopefully, if not, hopefully by next week, with Samantha.
Okay. Okay, if I can be of any help,
Thank you.
I don't know how I can.
Well, Ms. McDonald, can you give us as a resident there?
I went there in the evening. I moved from New York back to Bedminster, where I've lived forever, and know a lot of people, including my son who lives in Gladstone. But anyway, I moved there because my son heard from a friend of his that his mom moved there. And I was living with my son looking for a place, and I didn't know where to go. And I didn't want a big place, and I didn't want to buy a house, and I didn't want responsibility, and I wanted to downsize. And so therefore, when I went to see it in the evening, it was perfect. I could vacuum it in 10 minutes if I had gloves. You know, it was just easy for me. And it's easy to walk to King's if I want, and the shop's there. I roller skate. I can roller skate around there, but not in where I live because the sidewalks are terrible. There are many people, we fight for parking spaces. I don't, because I can walk. And thank God that I can walk. A lot of people have walkers and canes and wheelchairs. They can't. Those sidewalks are like, and chunks came out this last snowstorm last week, big chunks of cement. So it's shabby. It's disgraceful, really. But you know, the insides of the places are nice. They're kept nice. 20 years ago, I was campaigning, as Judy knows, and walking around interviewing the people to get them out to vote, drive them to the polls if they wanted. And I wasn't impressed. I didn't get into too many places, but it seemed that there were many older people than the age that I thought. So, but anyway, when I went back there, it was shabby it wasn't shabby at night, but it's shabby during the day. And it hasn't been painted in over 20 years. But I don't know that you could even get them to paint. I don't know how much control you have. That we've had discussions about this, the neighbors, when I see them outside. They've discussed it. They've evidently been here before. So, and I haven't, so that's what I have
We're
to say.
glad you came here tonight. As you know, this is something that we are keeping on our agenda. So
Okay.
this is on the agenda as old business. Judy is going to keep it on the agenda so that every time we meet, we get updates on the efforts to make repairs over at Pluckman Park, because you use the term disgraceful, and it is disgraceful the way in which that property has been
There
left.
are only 50 parking spaces, and 3 of them are handicapped. We have more handicapped people than that who drive. There is a fight for parking spaces all the time. I could care less because I can walk. Like I said, thank God, these people can't carry their packages when they're having with canes and things. It's sad.
Were there any efforts made to affect the repairs? I mean, we've heard that there were some, but they haven't moved forward with the others that were identified.
It's
So-
mud in a hole that should really be paved. I guess you could call that an effort.
Is that the hole by the circle?
That's one of them, yeah. And it's a water problem as well. It seems that the land is sinking from where Jerry lives, which is when you go up around, and if you were to go instead of the right way around the circle, if you were to go here, I live right among the first few apartments, and the one in the back she can't walk out her front porch when after a rain. Anyway, I don't have to walk on mine because I go this way, so her water comes down and just floods out. I don't know what can be done about that. The planting of the trees have never been taken care of that I can see. They're fruit trees, and they're really ugly. You know what happens to a fruit tree when you don't prune it and take it. And the deer come, of course, and we love them, but it's not a place for them, especially with people walking, like with walkers. So I don't want to take up your time because I know that you're just starting this, so but we will be paying attention. I hope you can do something. It's privately owned.
Susan, would you share your email address? Do you have an email address you could share with me?
Susan Mack,
Hey,
911.
let me give you my card, and you email me. So if we have questions or we can communicate.
Sure.
All right, so send me something. All right?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, and Ms. McDonald, if you show up at the next meeting, hopefully there's an update from the discussions with the landlord.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment, still, microphone is still available?
Stacy Gregg, Rockaway Township, good to see you again. Coming back to follow up from the last time I was here regarding the property. I believe you live on Hillside Avenue, Mayor? The burial ground on Hillside?
The burial ground?
Yes. You said you live across the street from
Yes.
it. So you live on Hillside, so I got the right burial ground. Just want to make sure, because I know there's one also that backs up to the golf course, the Trump International Golf Course. There's also a burial ground over there as well. So I want to make sure we're talking about the right one for the record. What happened, I would like to get some follow-up regarding where it got left off. Did we ever see the contract and what was involved in it and what restrictions were on it? Because those were questions that we didn't have access to the paperwork that you said you were totally committed to, possibly. You were in a contract, and real estate contracts never get delayed. Was the feeling of the attorney at the time? I think you answered me last time I was here.
I wasn't here. I'm
You
covering
look a
for
little
John.
different.
Yeah, I'm covering for John
Okay.
Bellato. I wasn't here at the last meeting.
The attorney that was, so I guess you're the same firm? as the-
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So do we have any records available, or someone who can give information regarding the burial ground that would help us out? Because it kind of seemed like, I know it's quoted, but it still kind of seems like a slap in the face that right from underneath the people that you all have connections with, I know the mayor does, he was there when they did the groundbreaking. Literally it wasn't groundbreaking, it's a cemetery, the ground has been broken. Why anybody would want to have it as part of their backyards, I don't know. But the 1/10 of an acre that was left, called God's Acre, he was there that day, seemed to be very proud of it, but to not inform the NAACP and the people that were there that it was in fact for sale, because it came totally left field from them. And the first order of business is January, he gets into office, and we have a contract now on a piece of property with it's an interest straight across the street. He's saying it's not the same piece of property. So I believe there are people in the community that would like to do maybe a walk and get some information. Can we set something up where we can go over the contract to see what the restrictions are? Because it would be, there's some concern there about two families it was only allowed to be sold to them. So families putting up pools or different things, trampolines or things in their new acquired part of their backyard for a very reasonable amount of money is questionable. And the new law coming in, I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's been quite a few generations since we had the days of slavery. So we have quite a few Black Americans that have been buried all over the country, and we're finding their cemeteries. And when you go to dig and put things in, and now we're seeing bones, this has been a concern. And I believe Congressman Donald Eachin, have you heard of Congressman Eachin, E-A-C-H-I-N, Eachin is the last name. Have you heard of him?
I have not.
He's a Virginian congressman, and they're putting in a bill to Congress to have to have attention so that they don't get desecrated, like what's happening here in Bedminster. He joined with another congressperson for this proposal, is Alma Adams of North Carolina. So there's something going on here where this cemetery that's been, this plot of land that's been designated, and it's been kicking around for like the last, I think my brother's been working on it for 15, 20. I've been sick of hearing about this project, and then it was like, oh gosh, I guess it really was a big deal. It is something, and people do care. He's not the only one who really cares. People really care about this. You spoke about it. There was a book written about it, right? The $3 sale. You're very familiar with it, Mayor? The book was written about the cemetery.
The book was written about the recollection of growing up in this area, with a couple paragraphs and pages about that property.
And what's the name of the book?
The book is Story of an Old Farm.
And what's on the plaque that's across the street from your house? It says something about the acre, the name?
It was described in there as God's Acre.
God's Acre. I was a little girl, and my mother was an English teacher, and she spoke about a famous place in New Jersey, God's Acre. So I grew up hearing that. My mom's been long gone, over 21 years, but I do remember that. It's a very famous literary piece or something. It's out there. People care about this, and it just seems very advantageous that all of a sudden there's a sale for like next to nothing for 0.6 of an acre, and you're leaving 0.1 acre for this plaque. I know somebody tried to get permission to go around with some sort of mechanism to find out where the graves are. Because we know that the other one that's in Bedminster has quite a few places where they found unmarked graves. They didn't have markings anymore, because you're talking over 100 years. But the ones that are there are very thin. So a lot of people brought up a lot of the issues that I've gone over again, about it being across from the mayor's house, and that they didn't know anything about it, and we were here June 22nd. I talked about how that was a significant date in my life. I'm not going to forget it. Where every year there's going to be people there to honor this cemetery. Hopefully you'll come this year in June. And hopefully there won't be a barbecue happening in the yards on either side of the cemetery on that day. Although I believe this June we had people, it's my understanding, recollection of people walking out. Yeah, do you remember the people across the street sitting in lawn chairs watching? So they didn't come out and join us when we had it, but they sat in their driveway and watched us. And we had the dedication. The chairs were set up, and Mrs. Vanessa Brown from the NAACP brought refreshments, and we had a table. It wasn't a picnic, but it was, a night. She had the table brought out and had men helping and women helping, setting it up, and it was very nice, right? You had some cookies and juice and everything else. So, but now it's going to be part of, now you're saying that's not affected at all, the part that we were sitting on. That's less than 1/10 of an acre.
Correct.
I'd like to meet with someone and possibly walk that, because from my recollection, I know my backyard, I know how much acreage I have. I think it would be encroaching pretty close to ground where the sign is located. You're saying that whole area that was lawn, that was mowed, will still be there? It'll now have a fence around it? The 0.10 of an acre that's a cemetery?
We're not installing a fence.
I understand, but you sold off the property that was part of the designated cemetery to
No.
neighbors.
No.
Not at all.
No.
You're saying it.
What was sold, what was identified as the burial ground was 1/10 of an acre. That 1/10 of an acre is being preserved. The burial ground is not being sold. The deed that says 1/10 of an acre, markings identifying where it is, subsequent deeds describing that same property, the burial ground is not being sold. The land around it, which was a house, which was a driveway, was a municipal complex, was a former DPW yard, and all that other land is being sold.
Okay.
And so we can talk about the status of the transaction. And, Joe, if you want to give us an
Did the transaction go
update.
through and you had a closing date on this?
No, the
property?
closing hasn't occurred yet. The property owners have ordered their updated title. We received one property owner's updated title report. Excuse me.
Made aware of what was going on here?
Yes, it was always public knowledge. That was nothing that was ever held.
No, were they presented with it? Because that was the question. Are they actually, 'cause to be honest, you could tell from the people sitting here, not many people really follow
Yes, no, that lot, that original lot was, that the mayor is referencing, was subdivided previously many years ago. That 1/10 of an acre, that was subdivided off and created a separate lot. It was not part of the lot that was recently subdivided and is subject to the sale, which is, as the mayor was mentioning, was the part that was used as a house, driveway, municipal complex, and DPW site. That has now been subdivided, and that is what's subject to the sale. Those two new lots 102 and lot 1.02, 1.03, are in the process of scheduling the closing. We're getting updated. The closing documents are being prepared as we speak. As far as I'm aware, the title company's working on them. I know I'm waiting for some to review, to come into me. The lot 1.01, that's the 1/10 of the acre that the mayor is referencing, and that is not subject to these sales, and that's not being touched, and that's where the cemetery is located.
And this lot, because the whole thing is 6/10, they divided 6/10 of an acre between them, the two homeowners on either side.
Oh, it's not perfectly divided, but yes, it is divided between two different lots.
And that's enough land for a municipal complex?
That's what was there.
They had a municipal complex on that small
Right.
piece of property, because what's the zoning now for buildings?
It's public use. Public use.
No, if you're going to build a home, or going to build
They would,
something.
it's not, the zoning hasn't changed. It's still zoned as public use. So any change of use for a private property owner would have to go before one of the land use board and get approvals.
So what is, like, some towns are 3 acres, 5 acres?
That property is still, hasn't been changed of zoning, so there is no residential that's permitted there. It's still zoned as public use. If they want to utilize that property in connection with their residential use, it would be a split zone, and they would have to get board approval.
Okay, and is there a way to review, because I believe people really want to see what was in the contract as far as any sort of things in there? Is there a way to see the contract?
The contract for sale?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
Just come to
Submit a
the
NOPA
office
request
during the
and,
day and ask for an open?
yeah, you can seek Judy. I don't have a copy for you now, no,
No,
but,
I mean, can I ask her for it now, or do I have to come in the daytime? and
You'd
fill
have to submit a
paperwork
number
out?
request, but then we can provide it to you.
All right, so I think no one's done that as yet necessarily. All right, so if I can get your card, I will follow up with that, and I'll get it to the different organizations that were represented here last week, and thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Craig.
Unless there was something else, info I needed? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none. We do not have an executive session tonight, so we will end with Township Committee comments, and we will start over Mr. Stevenson.
No comments.
Mayor, I have no comments, thank you.
Mayor, I got my comment.
Thank you, Mayor, I have nothing to say.
And no comments from me. Thank you all.
There is some
Oh,
correspondence. on
you have
your
correspondence.
sheet. Normally, we don't really look at the correspondence, it's usually from another town referencing their pending ordinances, but there is a letter, I did not give you a copy, but it's from New Jersey American Water regarding just possible rate increases for sewer. The notice is about a number of towns throughout the state that they service. Bedminster's increase, this is before the BPU, it's not been approved yet. Bedminster's number, and of course, no one can find it.
You know, I think I saw that under reports as well.
Didn't we do this last year?
Is it reports?
There's a freeze?
So the,
Or is it,
they are proposing a very small increase.
Under reports.
under reports? Well, Judy, if you, bless you, if you could get that to Bill Mosca,
So it's, the increase is approximately 20 cents to the average customer.
Didn't last year they tried to do a bump, and then we went back to them and said
Yes.
about there was a freeze, and they acknowledged the freeze,
Yes.
and then that it's now over? Or was it still in place?
I sent it to Bill Mosca, but I'm not sure of the timeframe, but we're getting close to the end of it.
I think there was another, at least from last year, there were 2 more years left.
Right.
And that was for sewer rates. Different from water rates. So,
But this is sewer.
This is wastewater treatment, yes.
so if you could, Judy, let's just get this to Bill,
Okay.
and if we can get a report from Bill on what this means and whether we have to intervene in any action to protect the water and sewer rates.
Yeah, I will send it over to him. It goes through all the different rates throughout the whole state, but I just can't find the one for Bedford.
Right, I'm sure Bill is aware of it, but let's just bring it back
Yeah, I'll send
locally.
it over to him. This only
Okay.
just came, that's why I put it on. So it is a proposed, they're having a hearing at the end of the month down in Howell Township.
Okay, and you send that to Bill, I'll send an email to Bill as
Okay.
well. I was actually,
And it looks like it's a form letter to
Yeah.
various municipalities.
so the question is, to what extent is it relevant to us here in Bedminster? Are we otherwise protected by that rate increase moratorium? And with that, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned. Thank you all.
3:30? Tomorrow? 8:30.
8:30.
8:30, 3:30.
8:30 for
8:30,
him,
3:30.
3:30 for us.
And then Judy, if on Thursday, if you're meeting in advance of the PBA, I could be around, 'cause I'll be in the area.
Almost mentioned.
So if you need, let me know. I
See
can be there.
for the having long.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to do more work. I think he's just taking that number one saying, I'm done. And
The panel was looking for any kind of updates on
Tomorrow, we're sitting down with Township.
Especially those guys. Yeah.
Right?